Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
What's going on, everybody? You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Oh yeah, I got quite an episode for you this week. A little bit of faux drama surrounding Bayonetta 3, which is something I didn't care about at all, but a couple of people were talking about it, so we're going to go over it. A few quick updates on the Dream Game and House of the Dead, or Typing of the Dead, rather, excuse me. A little bit more on that. So stick with us. We're going to play another track from the 8-Bit Collective. Bound of the Bits did release a new album, but it was field recordings, so I don't think it's anything I could really play here on the air, and get some decent jams out of. So stick with us. You're listening to TCR. What? Ah, shit. That's Sugar Bomb from Craig Armonen. Why don't we shift gears and revisit the van? We're going to the van cast. You're listening to TCR. Stick with us. Here's one for you, the old school van cast. It's 5:53 p.m., 51 degrees outside, a nice brisk fall day. Leaves are changing color, and some are on the ground already. Good times. Hang on a second. Somebody's gonna... Well, that's an interesting decision. Interesting life decisions you've made there, sir. Okay. So, I'm heading off to get dinner. And so, the Vancast today. Last week, I talked a little bit about Typing of the Dead. Well, I gave that a play. And the first, my first thoughts, the first hour or so I put into it, was like, this is kind of fun, but I wish I could just play like the old school game with the mouse and the, you know, shooting and whatnot. And as it turns out, lo and behold, you can do that. So there's the Typing of the Dead Overkill game, and then you can flip a switch and play the same game, but instead of doing the typing routine, you're using the mouse, and there's the guns and the reloading and the gun store and all that stuff. It's good fun. I really enjoyed it. I got about 2 hours in. It's got a really over-the-top theme to it. It's very it's like a Quentin Tarantino movie, but Quentin Tarantino at his very worst, So that's I don't know. I had fun with it, but it was okay. I think I would be more interested in playing Typing of the Dead for the Dreamcast, the one where everybody has Dreamcasts on their backs. Which, by the way, did make it to the PC at some point, because I found a CD-ROM copy of that at the thrift store many moons ago. I don't have it anymore, but I know that did make it to PC. So that was pretty cool. Typing of the Dead had the old school sort of mode to it. It didn't have to be, the typing game strictly. So I played that for a couple hours, and I ended up playing the same couple of levels over and over again once I switched over to the regular mode, because it had there's a grinding aspect to it, earn money, buy better guns and whatnot. So, I don't know. It's not flawless, but it's a fun game. I also found out that there is indeed a remake of the original game. That was another thing I talked about last week. I thought it was, it would be cool. They took the OG Typing of the Dead and re-released it. Well, egg on my face. Looks like that's absolutely a thing they did. Ticket price is a little high for me. It's like $25 or $30, something like that. So, I don't know. Especially since the typing game has the sort of old school action in it as well. I passed on that for now. We'll see how low it goes in the next big sale, which is just around the corner, by the way. But the reality is, when the next big sale comes, I have my sights set on a bunch of roguelikes. There's several that I want to buy, particularly Caves of Qud, Qud being Q-U-D, is one I'm really interested in. In the world of roguelikes, that's one that's consistently best-selling right now. It's pretty hot right now. Good-looking game. I also want to get Desktop Dungeons, which I think is several years old now, so that one clocks in at $15 regular price. I'm hoping that go down just a little bit. And then, of course, once we hit Black Friday, which is another month from now, Greyhound Software, the people who make Total Extreme Wrestling, their website has a Black Friday sale annually. And since they're not part of Steam, they don't necessarily get involved with Steam's normal sale culture. So that's something I really wanted to jump on, especially since those Total Extreme Wrestling games are a little on the pricey side normally. I think the latest and greatest one is $35, I think, regular price. And that's a little steep, but I don't know. I've loved the Total Extreme Wrestling games I've played up to that point, so $35 is a lot, but it's not for a game that you put 100 plus hours into. I'll put it that way. So, with all that said, I'm probably not going to get, the House of the Dead game for however much they put it on sale. But we'll see. It's definitely on the wish list, and we'll probably stay there. Oh yeah, and Wizardry, right? Wizardry, what is the name of the latest one? The 5 Ordeals, which came out, I think, last year, but was, exclusively Japanese for a long time. That finally got an official English language support. So we'll see if that one goes on sale as well. That would be pretty awesome. Probably not. It probably won't. But that is a dungeon crawler that has scenario building tools and workshop support. So that's like my dream dungeon crawler right there. If it delivers what they promise. So we'll see. Again, another $35 game for the 5 ordeals. And with that, I think we're caught up at this point, because apart from those things, I've just been focusing on the dream game, because what they deliver in 4 weeks is just the engine, or the engine in part, and I still have to actually author the game. So when I haven't been busy playing, I've just been getting pen and paper and trying to lay out, trying to write this thing, which is really the way this is done. So yeah, more updates on that as they happen. And with that, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio. I'll see you there. Back again in the studio. I wanted to touch on this little buzz that was surrounding Bayonetta 3. The lead voice actress of Bayonetta was saying that she was only getting $4,000 for voice acting for the entire game. And there was some buzz around that. People were like, nah, we're going to try and boycott this game or whatever. That was, circulating the quote-unquote gaming journalist scene, what have you. Then it came out that it was $4,000 a session, and they were planning 5 sessions. So totally non-issue, but very weird. I was not interested at all in Bayonetta 3. At all. The Bayonetta franchise, I know it's beloved by some, but it never really grabbed me. Played the first one a little bit, and I don't know, couldn't quite get into it. So that's a thing. This person who is in the richest bracket of people who work on AAA games wasn't being paid quite enough thousands of dollars, I guess. Whatever. Meanwhile, the people who play it are strapping on construction boots in the morning. So, what are you going to do? That's Bayonetta. Take it or leave it. In other news, some good news actually. Groupies, the bundle site, is returning to service in November. They had been closed down because their servers were located in Ukraine, and I hear there's some goings on in Ukraine right now. So they'll be returning to service, and we'll be having more bundles to choose from. And won't that be dandy? Also, the last little bit I have here in my headlines is The Sims 4 is finally free to play, at least on Steam, which makes perfect sense because the Sims series has been like the one of the largest DLC cash cows outside of Paradox Interactive anyway for a lot of years. So it's nice to see them at least putting the base game up for free, especially since although the DLC is bananas, the base game is not bad. I didn't get much into The Sims 4, but played The Sims 3 a lot, and it's The Sims, there's some fun to be had there. So if you've never tried it and you have any interest, you can pop over to Steam, get yourself a copy, and I believe that Origin has it free to play as well. I'd have to double check that. I would imagine so, since the Steam version is basically just a link to the Origin version, but don't take my word for it on that, and I'm too lazy to look it up. So it's The Sims. Play The Sims 4, I guess. So earlier in the show, during the Vancast, I talked a little bit about trying out Typing of the Dead, and I tried it again today, and I am really enjoying it. I'm only, what is my total playtime? 5 hours. I passed the 5-hour mark for, just 2 sessions, and maybe 3. For me, that's pretty good. I don't know. I liked it enough that recording TCR this week got delayed because I was playing Typing of the Dead Overkill. So, yeah, that's full-hearted recommendation of Typing of the Dead Overkill if you've not played it. That's coming off of a kick of playing Super Hot every week, and I moved on to Super Hot Mind Control Delete, which is the sequel. And I didn't quite like it as much. It didn't have, they added some more cool mechanics, there's certain enemies, you can only shoot certain parts of their body to kill them and things like that. I don't know. And they made it a little harder, but I felt like the creepiness of the story that tied it all together in the first game was sort of absent. So, yeah, that's still there. Super Hot is a fun game. How much do they want for the sequel? Because the sequel being less fun. Yeah, it's $25. Phew. No, thank you, brother. Yeah, don't buy the sequel to Super Hot at regular price. Just don't do it. It's too much money. I'm looking at a countdown for the next Steam sale, and it's saying the holiday or the Halloween Steam sale should be on in 4 days. So from the time that this is being recorded, that's the 25th. And I don't know. Let's see the big games that I want, because there are. I've gone into the last couple Steam sales, kind of blasé, whatever. But now there's actually some games that I'm after. But they're mostly roguelikes and stuff. I don't think they're big Halloween type games. I already have Typing of the Dead Overkill. That's about as Halloween as it's going to get for me this year. So we'll see. Get your dollary dues ready if you're into Steam and you want more video games. Okay, how we doing? It's Monday now. It's time to finish the show up so we can get it posted. A couple things happened since I started putting this week's episode together. Hemrock, our good buddy Hemrock, just released. Was this morning or was this yesterday? But he did his top 40 from the 8-Bit Collective Archive. Now, you got to bear in mind, the 8-Bit Collective Archive has hundreds of tracks on it. And I know that for several months, he's been listening to each one and ranking them. So this runs 1 hour and 45 minutes and 55 seconds. And I am doped to listen to this while playing Rogue and other games that don't have any sound. So head over to the Discord and check out the top 40 best of 8BC from Hemrock. Thanks for making that, man. That's really awesome. That is a very ambitious project. I've got to mention that archive's been around for a while. 8BC's been gone a long time, and I don't remember anything similar being put together. So that's really cool. That's really cool. You have done the chiptunes world a great service, sir. All right, it is a little early, but we're a couple of minutes away from the 20-minute mark. Let's go ahead and thank the sponsors. This is a Patreon-sponsored program, and they give their resources to make sure we can come back every single week. So I like to read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. Most importantly, EmeraldRangers.com, who stepped in and made the deal to bring TCR back. EmeraldRangers.com, as well as Eric Controller and Tecmoballs. Thank you guys so much. I hope you're enjoying the party. I try to offer early access to the show when I can, although this past week I wasn't able to do it. Here it is Monday morning. I'm still recording. But the first couple weeks back, Friday is when the show went up. And then Monday for everybody else. Thank you guys very much. I hope you're enjoying the party. All right, let's go back to the 8BC. Now, this is not a curated selection like Hemrock's release is. This is just pulling random tracks out of the hat to see what we can come up with. Let's listen to something from the 8-Bit Collective. More when we come back. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. That's Weird Bananas with Intergalactic Gangsta Love. Now, Weird Bananas I recognize because one of the successors to 8-Bit Collective, right after that site went down, there were a couple of different sites that tried to do what they did, and one of them was a site called U Collective or Mew Collective. And I remember Weird Bananas showing up on that site. He had a couple of tracks that I put on regular TCR rotation, a few years back. Good stuff. A consistently good artist. Now, in the 8BC archive, he's got a few tracks. I see 3. So I'm guessing these must have come late in the 8BC life cycle. I wish they had like release dates with them, but you take what you can get. I'm just glad the tracks survived. All right. So I have some comments to read here. But let's see if there's anything else I'm forgetting before we shift gears and do the fail bag. I don't think so. We're pretty close to the next big Steam sale. And I was a little disappointed. Right now on Steam, they have the roguelike. What exactly? How do they word it? The roguelike celebration? 7th annual roguelike celebration. Which sounds great, right? Especially lately, perfect timing for old CF. I've been really into roguelikes lately, but none of the really great roguelikes have gone on sale, at least none of the ones that I have on my wish list. My wish list on Steam consists of 235 games. It's big, I get it. But I went through everything and I narrowed it down to 4. There are 4 games that I want above all others, and they are Desktop Dungeons Enhanced Edition. That's the number 1 slot, not on sale. It's $15. Caves of Quid, QUD, or CUD, which is $20. Also not on sale. Traditional roguelike, totally should be on sale. I mean, it's a newer game, so I kind of get why they're not. But Keeper RL, which is a fusion between roguelike and Dwarf Fortress, that actually is on sale at $16. It's 20% off. And then the 4th slot is Wizardry: The 5 Ordeals at $30, which again, that's not a roguelike, so it makes more sense. It's also pretty new, so I kind of get it, but quote-unquote big, roguelike sale. None of the roguelikes I want are on sale, so go figure. Oh, yeah, there is one more before we shift gears. Grey Dog Software that made the Total Extreme Wrestling games that I've been really into. They also made a comic book hero type game, The Great Escape, on Steam several years back. Well, they have a new game that they're working on called Comic Book Universe, and the demo was just released this past weekend. The game itself is not out yet, but the trial is out, so you can download the trial and give it a shot. I haven't yet because my next move with that company is the next Total Extreme Wrestling game, but they do a really good job, so I'm interested to see how it turns out once the full game is available. And with that, let's switch gears and do the fail bag. All right. So there's a few places where comments can be posted. You can put them on Discord. You can put them on YouTube if you don't mind waiting an extra week. And you can put them on emeraldrangers.com. Now, before I start scraping for comments, I have a couple that I actually printed out ahead of time to make sure that I had them and I could read them. And the first one is from Death Adder, and he writes, "Don't worry, as humorous as it would be to hijack your comment section with endless Scott Steiner MP3s for my own amusement every week, I'll pump the brakes so as not to tank your podcast upon its return. I recently played Euro Truck Simulator 2, and for a video game that mostly consists of holding down right trigger for 90% of the time, it's a pretty well-made game. I listened to some old Operation Kill Screen podcasts featuring Sinister Moon, Jumble Junkie, and Dog in My Lens from 2011 while trucking across Germany, and it was pretty relaxing. However, I did completely flip my truck over while making a slight right turn at one point, and no rafflecopters were had. We both don't care for racing simulators, but have you played any meme sims that you genuinely enjoyed, even for just 20 minutes? And when I say meme sims, I'm thinking more of Pressure Washing Simulator, not SimCity 2000. Regards, Perk Adder. Okay, a couple of things. So Euro Truck Simulator is an old favorite when it comes to like chill out games. You might be interested in the company that makes it did make an American counterpart. What exactly do they call it? Give me a second. So I know I have it. Yeah, it's just American Truck Simulator. American Truck Simulator is from the same company. If you wanted to drive on the right side of the road without having to start in Spain, that's one route you could take. I also like that game very much. I played the first one, I think, more, just because I was able to get the first one for $1, and the second one didn't. I wasn't able to get it for like another year or two. So in the first game, you have to drive to areas to pick up quests, whereas I think in the second game, you can just pick up the quest from the map screen, and then you're good to go. So they streamlined it a little bit. They got rid of the stuff that, you know, is totally no fun at all. Yeah, I don't know what it is about that driving the old truck, but that's a super chill game, and it definitely kickstarted like a trend in the meme simulators, like you're talking about. So as far as meme simulators are concerned, I'm not sure if I have a favorite. The biggest laugh I got was out of Fidget Spinner Simulator, which Kaiser gave me as a gift several years back. Let me see if I can figure out how much time I put in that before I finally lost it. And I don't think Steam will tell me. Oh, yes, it will. 33 minutes. I don't remember being that much, actually. They've added some achievements since then, too. Yeah, not a good game. Not good at all. Another really good one is Goat Simulator. I think that was the most prominent of meme simulators. You know, a simulator game that didn't take itself seriously at all, but actually was sort of polished and fun to play and had a pretty decent run amongst the YouTube folks. Goat Simulator, if you could find it cheap enough. In terms of practical gameplay, you're going to smash into a few things, and that's pretty much it. So not a ton there, but I don't know, I liked it. Did I cover everything? Funzy's video and memes don't have to be read. He added a quote, another Scott Steiner quote, which I'm not going to put here on the air, hailing from Dunkin' Donuts at 3 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm going to put that in the Discord if you want to check it out. There was a thread on Reddit a while back, and I don't read Reddit a ton anymore, but there was one that was like Scott Steiner versus the English language, and that was the quote that came up was hailing from Dunkin' Donuts in the great state of obesity. That's something he said. So I would like to check that out. So you can head over to Discord if you want to see what he's talking about. And that, having been completed, I got one more that's printed to make sure that I hit it. And then we'll cruise the sites and see what else everybody has to say. Sean, good old Darabka, says, damn it, I wrote my comment on the previous episode too late. Well, what you going to do? I'm checking out Adrift since I have a mostly text-based game in mind, mostly something like the Steam game Curious Expedition 1. I lost my place. Give me a second. I've been kind of obsessed with the first and second game since it emulates a hex crawl D&D adventure very well, which I enjoy. I understand the need to finally put your chips down as on an artistic project like that. I'm trying to do the same myself, even if it's just something you do with yourself or with some friends or a niche community. It's still worth it. When you mentioned the roguelike game jam, it reminded me of a website dedicated to classic first-person dungeon crawlers like Eye of the Beholder called dungeoncrawlers.org. They list all the games of that very specific genre with an exact definition. As I mentioned, they have their own competition to make dungeon crawlers. I might try and figure out how and make a simple one myself. We'll probably try to learn Unity, 3D, or Godot for that purpose. Start with tutorials with making Pong, etc., like you're doing with Python. Work on the art for the game concept in a notebook. Either way, here is the question of the week. Have you thought at all about the setting for your text adventure / roguelike game? I lost this. At all, or is it not yet important since you're working on the structure and at the moment? Good show, man, and thanks for making these. DungeonCrawlers.org. Keep calm and crawl dungeons. Your number one resource in first-person, grid-based 90-degree dungeon crawlers. Then at the end, he says, this is a repost of my comment on Emerald Rangers. I actually spotted your comment on Emerald Rangers, but it was like 30 minutes after I had put the last one together. It was really close. I can't remember exactly how close it was, but it just missed the bar to the point where like I couldn't go back. So about this website, dungeoncrawlers.org, I was not familiar with that one, and I was actually really keen to check that one out. It's a really cool site, because even though I'm in like a roguelike kick right now, I very much like my dungeon crawlers. I think that's something that we've established in the past. Big fan of Wizardry. I mean, it's the top 4 games that I want out of my 250 plus Steam games. One of them is a dungeon crawler. You know, love my dungeon crawlers. Love my dungeon crawlers. Simple as. So this is pretty cool. A lot of cool stuff here to check out. As far as building a dungeon crawler, what were the resources you talked about using? Unity, 3D, or Godot? Knowing you and the art you like, go with Godot. You're not going to have... Here, a couple of reasons why. You're not going to have the, like... intro of death. Every Unity game that's low end, you know, every hobby project from Unity has that gray made with Unity screen on it, and that's like a red flag for everyone. No one likes playing a game that has that, so it's worth it just to avoid that. Also, Godot is a really good system. It makes sense, and the back end of creating a dungeon crawler is not that complex. I mean, you basically just have a grid, and whenever you, I mean, think back to, I hope I'm not losing you, but you're a college graduate, so you'll be with me. Think back to algebra, right? Do you remember the Cartesian coordinate system? Very simple. You got an x-axis, you got a y-axis. Now think back to the first handful of Wizardry games. They had a 10 by 10 grid. Well, you just set it so that every node on that grid, you know, every set of coordinates has a room type, and each room type would be, you know, the shape of a room, you know, top down. Like you'd have an L, and you'd have, you know, like a T room, and you'd have a dead end facing each direction. Those would all be room types. So you would define it so that, okay, room 1 or 1-1 is room type 3. Okay. And room type 3 would be like a horizontal T or horizontal piece or whatever. And that's how you can define your maze completely in text. And then in your controls, you just have it say, okay, if you want to go north, then you're going +1 on the y-axis. It's very difficult to describe with words. Not that difficult to do. It's something I could probably help you with if you actually wanted to do a dungeon crawler in Godot. The bigger challenge is going to be making something coherent. You know, making a game that people want to play. The stuff that you think is going to be easy is the hardest part, and the stuff that you think is going to be hard is probably the easiest part. That's what I would say. I thought very hard about making a dungeon crawler, and when I was in my Pico 8 kick, that was my next project in Pico 8, was I was figuring out how to make dungeon crawlers from scratch. The reason I didn't go with one at that time was, you know, because of the limitations of Pico 8, and not graphically. I'm talking about how Pico 8 will only let you put so much code into the game. And that was a time when I was big into dungeon crawlers, and I knew that it was, if I built a dungeon crawler, it was going to be like my dream game sort of thing. It would not be a simple thing. It'd be like, you know, something I would add to over time. So I wasn't going to start a project in Pico 8 that I knew would never be finished. That's not what Pico 8 is for. And then once I kind of started figuring out Python and what, I'd kind of moved on to the next thing. So if you wanted to do a dungeon crawler, man, do Godot. I'll grab a copy of Godot as well, and I'll start figuring it out so we can work on it together. I think that'd be great. The world needs more dungeon crawlers, man. Scratch that. The world needs more quality dungeon crawlers, we'll say, because I think there's a a halfway decent amount of doo-doo dungeon crawlers. If you want a doo-doo dungeon crawler, then you're probably not going to have to look very far. All right, let's pop over to Emerald Rangers and see if anybody commented there. It looks like we covered the Sims 4 base game becoming free to play. Who did that write-up? Was that, yeah, it was Sendu. Yeah, well done. By the way, hope you're okay with me sharing this because it's kind of happening. Today is Sendu's birthday. So happy birthday, Sendu. Sims always had expansion packs, but not to this level. More importantly, this is a great example of a free-to-play market that's slowly taken over the gaming industry. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But at the very least, this is the, at the base game has some content to play, you know. How long has Sims 4 been out now, by the way? It's got to have been a while. It feels like no, because I was already kind of done with the Sims franchise with Sims 3. But it's, 2014. Gosh, that's been almost 10 years, 8 years. Yeah. 8 years for a game that I think that had to have been $60 when it first came out, right? The base game. I don't know. It was not a cheap game. The Sims has never been cheap. I remember, this again, for risk of telling a story I've told many times, back in like the early 2000s, late 90s, when I used to walk to GameStop, and GameStop had big box PC games, I would wait until the games had been out for a year and buy them in most cases, and so I could get them for cheap. That was when the Sims, the first Sims, was out, and that was a huge game, man. And I was waiting for there to be some sort of price cut so I could pick it up, because it was like $45. Original Sims, big box, vanilla Sims, not even with any of the expansions. And it never dropped, so I never bought it. And I wanted it. It's not like I wasn't interested. I just didn't have the cash. I didn't have the cash, and this was at a time when I was finding other things every time I walked down to the store. That was when I was getting like Quake and Quake 2, and if I didn't see something huge, then I'd end up with something lesser that ended up being huge anyway. Like that's when I bought that's when I bought Warcraft 2. That's when I bought Rogue Spear, which was a really cool game. So it just never happened. Always been an expensive game, The Sims. All right, so the only comment that's here now is Sean's comment from last week, which we read already. So let's jump over to YouTube and see what we have there. Hang on a second. Bear with me. Yes, the Mecha Menace portion of the show. Let's start with Desm. He says, Desm101 writes, I'll always think it's pretty cool that we got a gritty dystopian Mario Brothers movie thanks to the 90s. Yeah, you know what? I guess I never looked at it that way, but you're right. Good to hear from you, man. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you weighing in. Mecha Menace has 3. He writes, I haven't seen the trailer, so I can't commiserate. I like going into things as blind as I can, expecting nothing, but the internet has a tendency to spoil things. I hate this is going to suck, etc. I skipped over the goofy laughs enough to interpret your sentiment as being in agreement. I do recall another game mascot who recently had a less than stellar pre-watch reviews for his mainstream movie release. That movie did well, and I enjoyed it somewhat. I recall the vibe after the release was the same thing, better than expected. So hopefully my mind is still open to being good or falling flat on its own. That's fair. That's fair. Take the movie let the movie stand on its own rights. I'm with you on that. I watched the trailer because I didn't see myself watching the movie. That's why I watched the trailer. But hey, maybe it'll be really cool. Charlie Day is in it. I think Charlie Day is really good. He writes, Pocket Sprite. Can't recall whether you discussed this machine. That's another one he mentioned. So I looked up the Pocket Sprite after reading that. It's a really small emulation machine. Seems really cool. I like the small ones. It says it's the world's smallest, retro handheld, whatever. It isn't. The world's smallest is Thumby, as far as I know. It's a cool looking little device, but it's still just another emulation device. So I wasn't, it's like roughly the size of an original Game Boy cartridge, based on the images that I saw. But it just plays the same old games, which I guess is pretty cool. I was more interested in something that had, something like the Arduino Boy, right? Or the play date that had its own environment. That was like something that was designed, to get developers to come develop games. So, and it says that it has an open architecture on it, but it's, I looked, I wasn't able to find any like developers saying, hey, yeah, let's make games for this. So I don't know, kind of cool, but that's a pass for me. I appreciate you mentioning it though, so I could check it out. Finally, he says, I recall a time when my whole family went to see Mario Brothers at our local theater. I even remember the movie getting panned at the time. It wasn't the Mario we expected, but everyone enjoyed it, including my parents who were not interested in games at all. That's good times. My only memory of that movie was, I can't remember what movie I went to see with my family, but I remember coming out of a movie and seeing the big cardboard display for it, with Mario and Luigi and This Ain't No Game and whatnot. And I remember seeing that display and being shocked, like, oh man, this is going to be the best. Because I was a kid, and I never actually saw the movie. I still haven't seen it to this day. So, I don't know. Part of me thinks it should stay that way, just because in my head it's the greatest movie ever made. Kind of. And thank you, Mecha Menace and Desm, for checking in. That's it for YouTube. Let's jump over to the Discord and see what we have, because I think Hemrock posted some stuff, and I just kind of skipped over it the last couple weeks. All right, jumping over to the Discord. We're going to do, let's see, fail bag. There it is. And let me drop back a little bit. Bum, bum, ba, ba. Bum, ba, ba. Here we go. So do you not use this as a source of failbag for the show? Thank you for advertising the Phoenix High Score Challenge. That game is amazing. My favorite Atari 2600 title at the moment. I'm using Stella with USB Hyperkin Trooper 2 2600-esque joystick. I highly recommend the controller. I found it at my local game store for less than Amazon, and he drops a photo of that. Thank you for another episode of TCR. I'm glad you're back. Also, do you have an ETA for a demo of the Dream Game? So I left a response in text at the time, but a couple of things. The joystick that he's talking about, it looks like the Atari 2600 joystick, except it has the red button that the 2600 joystick had. It's on either side, so if you're left-handed or right-handed, whatever, it'll be fine. And then at the base of it, there's a start and select button, because 2600 famously, like, you had to press restart on the actual machine to run your game. So there's that. I bought that thing like a year ago, a couple of years back, something like that. Whenever I moved into this bigger office, was around the time I got that thing, and I wanted to use it with let me look up exactly what it's called here. The Atari Vault. I wanted to use it with the Atari Vault, which is the Steam collection of Atari games. Bam, 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 and it didn't work, and I was supremely disappointed. So, just to be clear, I don't think it's a Hyperkin issue that it didn't work. I think it's an Atari Vault issue that it didn't work. Like, the people who made the game dropped the ball, not the controller, because it seems to work with everything else on PC. Now, you mentioned you're using it with Stella, which makes sense because it's just, Stella's a bare bones emulator. It's, lots of features, but not a lot of pomp and circumstance. Perfect. I bet that makes sense that would work really well. I should give it a try, because that's exactly what I bought up, and I still have it. That's the funny thing. And I bought it, didn't do what I wanted to, and it's not like I got rid of it or something. It's still here in my office somewhere, taking up space. So, yeah, that would be cool to play that. So when I first got my actual Atari, to go back in time just a little bit, where was I living? I can't remember. I didn't have a place of my own, that's for sure. And I didn't have a lot of things, right? I was moving a lot. And I don't think I owned a video game system. I may have owned... No, I take that back. I had a PS1. And when I say PS1, I mean the reproduction that they made with the little screen. When that first came out, I bought that. Because I had an empty like camcorder bag, so I put the PS1 in the camcorder bag, and I only had like a couple of games, so I was able to fit the entire thing in this little bag, and that was perfect for my situation. So the very next system that I bought was the Atari 2600. It was the junior model, right? The one that had 4 physical buttons on the machine as opposed to the switches like the old Woody versions that everyone's familiar with. A junior model came out late. This was like the 5200 was already out. This was late. A low-cost machine bought to, make a little extra money or something like that. That was my Atari. I bought it it came in a garbage bag that I bought from a pawn shop. And I paid like $45 for it. And I got a small handful of games, like 4 or 5 games. And I can't remember all of them. But I remember that one of them was Warlords, and I didn't have a paddle, so that stayed unplayed for many, many years. And one of them was Phoenix was one of them. That's what I'm getting to. Phoenix was one of the first set of games that I got for the Atari. I do remember most of them. Phoenix was one. Missile Command was another one. Space Invaders was another one. And Pac-Man, the original Pac-Man that no one likes. Those, I think, were the playable ones that I got. So out of that group, I think Phoenix is probably one I played the most. And in those days, the rig I was using to set it up, I don't even know how to explain it, but I had an old RF switch box that was like from the time when people played Atari. Like it was put together with screws. I don't know if you remember from like the 80s, 70s and 80s. TV antennas had like forks, and the idea was in the back of your TV there was a screw, and you would unscrew it, the screw, put the fork underneath it, and then screw it back again, and that's how you connected your antenna. So this RF switch box had like a couple of those forks plugged into an adapter. It was a real 1970s sparky nightmare of a contraption. And so the end result was when I hooked up my Atari and played it, it was fuzzy. It was not a clear picture. It was very like a very 1980s experience. It was not clear at all. Very, very fuzzy. And I thought that was also very charming. I don't have the RF switch anymore. Now the way I connect it, it's nice and clear. But played Phoenix a lot at that time, and I still have the old copy. I don't have all my Atari games anymore, but that one I still have. So yeah, if you've never played it and you have any interest in Atari, I now have it on all of my handhelds. So I've busted out the Pow Kitty and the Ambronix a couple of times in the past week to try and get a sizable score, but I can't anymore. I have not been able to even come close. I posted my like lifetime high scoreboard on the Discord and I had a nice score from several years back, but that was when I was playing a ton of Atari, and I'm not now. And to be honest with you, now if I got a high score on an Ambernick and I were to write that in my book, I'd put an asterisk by it. It's like, hey man, this was not done with an actual Atari joystick. So kudos to you for using that Hyperkin stick, because using those Atari sticks, man, it's a different beast. The games feel different. It's a different thing. So that's really cool. And you also mentioned, I'm gonna have to navigate back to. You said, what was the ETA for the demo of the Dream game? I don't know. I have no idea. It's because I can't get started until the guy delivers the engine. And when he delivers the engine, I'm sure there's going to be problems, like no doubt. So I don't know. This is going to be a thing where it's going to be, a year or something before we can even talk about a demo. I mean, you're a close personal friend, so anything I have that runs, you can touch and play with. I'll send you. So, but as far as a public demo is concerned, I don't know. I think one of the questions I skipped over in Sean's post was, do I have a setting? And the answer is no, I don't. It's something I'm working on. It's going to be an amalgamation of like Dungeons and Dragons games or whatever. I know it's going to be multiple regions. Like, I want to set it up so that I have something that think kind of like the Daggerfall region map, but not quite that expansive. Like, I want to have like 10 or something. 10's a high number, but a bunch of different regions, each with their own like castle and area and quests and whatnot. And I can tell you the way it's set up now, the criteria for a successful build demo build is that you pick up an item, you can see the item in your inventory, and you can use that item, and that triggers an end. That triggers an end condition or a win condition. So it's what I have in my head is, you have to collect X number of items that come together and make the win item. As far as the setting is concerned, it's very loose. This is going to be a game that's about exploration, so I'm more worried about putting the world together. And I've been doing a lot of sketching, like physical sketching on paper. Like, hey, here's a really awesome looking tower, and I'll draw the tower. And it's like, all right, how would this break down into a text adventure map? So then over the sketch of the tower, I would start drawing squares to represent the different rooms that you could, go to and how they would fit together and stuff. And I've been doing that a lot. So, I don't know. One thing I'd like to do is take some of those sketches and turn them into small text adventures using other software just to see how they would play. But I don't know. I'd want to use something that matched up similarly in terms of description and space. Like most of the text adventure builders, like, hey, when you write a description, it can only be X amount long. I don't know. I'd want that to closely resemble the engine that's being built. So I'm kind of holding off for that sort of thing. And that's the Dream Game update. And that is everything I got from Hemrock. Excuse me. Sean put his Emerald Rangers comment in the chat, so I made sure to print it out. Excuse me. And I think that is the fail bag. Wow, and that got us to 52 minutes. And with that, boys and girls, it's time to hear that song again. Whatever it is you're dealing with, whatever it is that's going on in your life, I hope it's going well for you. And if it isn't, I hope you're buckling down and taking it head on. Don't get discouraged. Things are going to go bad sometimes. Keep at it. Take care of yourselves. I'm wishing you all the best. See you next week.